This we watched episode 4. The first title it gave was Rain, Escape, and Afterwards, but the second one, Hedgehog's Dilemma, I think is more fitting because it's sort of a recurring theme in the show that comes up, and they've already brought it up twice, so I'm going to go with that one. Just to start off, still not a fantastic episode. It's pretty run-of-the-mill middle line, but it's certainly an improvement from last week's.
I liked it because this was the first episode without any demons that they were fighting. Like, no demons, no angels.
Yeah.
There's no
kind
fight.
of opposite things there to get confused.
Well, I meant demons isn't like they're... Because they call them demons.
Well, they're angels, though.
No, like the machines are called demons.
They're called Evas.
Well, they use the Japanese word for demon they also use to describe them.
Okay, well, I don't know about that.
Yuri.
Don't.
Wait, no, not Yuri. Oh, well, I don't know. Let's just forget anything I said.
Yeah, okay. Moving on. It's a very quiet episode. There's almost no music. Like you said, there's very little... there's no action at all. There's a lot of just slow shots, no dialogue, which is good. It's sort of a good change of pace, but I still would like to see a little bit more character in these opening ones. At this point, we had some good scenes with Shinji and Misato, and I think that's sort of a precursor to... I think they're sort of building up the fact that they're very similar in different ways, and I think that's a recurring theme that comes up, so we're starting to get it there. But we're still getting way too much, like, Kensuke and Toji. I don't like them at all. I think they're terrible characters. No lines from Rei this episode again, and I think since Rei is one of the main characters, I think we get an episode about her coming up soon. But at episode 4... we should be seeing a lot more.
I think they're trying to build her up as a mysterious figure.
And that's true, and I think you can do that, but still have her maybe have at least a little interaction with these characters, or maybe she doesn't need to interact, just a little bit of inner monologue, a little bit of something, but they've given us almost nothing at this point.
There were small touches in this episode that I really liked. Was there anything big that you want to talk about besides?
I just got notes of things I noticed,
okay.
So you go ahead.
I liked overall the change of pace. I think it was good. It was a little more reflective and quiet and calm in this episode, which I think was a welcome change from what we had seen so far.
And don't get used to it, because I think we're going to get... It's very a lot of action and violence oriented from now on, I believe. Yeah.
But what I liked about this one is that there were small touches that worked really well. Like when he went to the movie theater, and like at the movie they were talking about like the destruction, like it was like a natural disaster movie, and like the last line was like, you can pretend like it doesn't happen, but you have to watch this unfold, and like that was very reflective of his.
I wrote that down because I thought there were a lot of stuff, not just the last one, but there's some in that movie where it's representative of what's happening there, but also what's going on. There's some foreshadowing there.
Yes. And I think that it wasn't too heavy-handed either. Because, like, sometimes it can be really heavy-handed. I felt like that was handled very appropriately. And, like, if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't understand the parallels between the two. And if you were just kind of watching it and eating your buttered noodles at the same time, you might not have noticed it. But I felt like that was a really good part of the episode to kind of describe what's going on. And that happens a lot in books and a lot in, movies and TV where they reference other things. And there's, like, a play inside a play, or a TV show inside a TV show. Yeah. Most of the time it's played for laughs, but here it's played like serious.
It's not an uncommon device, but it's used.
But it's executed well here, so I liked that.
Just that's something that I think I just going to talk about eventually. Might as well talk about it now. Is a big criticism for this show that a lot of people have, and maybe detractors, and I think it's kind of a weak one. Is people think Shinji is I'm not going to use the exact word, but they think he's like whiny. Like a baby. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. And I think that's completely illogical to have as a complaint, because I think it's intentional. I think... Well, yeah, that's the point. He's supposed to be representative of a 14-year-old that would be in this situation. A 14-year-old would not be brave. No. A 14-year-old would be distraught and emotional. I wrote this down. He plays the same song over and over again when he's on the subway. Mm-hmm. That's such a 14-year-old thing to do. You got your Linkin Park... Like, this song is me, and you're playing it over and over again. I think they do a really good job, because the fact that these are pubescent teenagers is incredibly integral to the entire scope.
I think, and this is why I like this a little better than maybe that it's a little more realistic than like Avatar or Harry Potter or books like that, where it's like they're 14, 15 years old and they're supposed to save the world. That is a whole lot of pressure. And I think, like, because we've been reading books and seeing movies where it's like teenagers are saving the world, we think that we can do that. But the reality is, it's like, I can barely work a full-time job without breaking down, let alone save the entire world. And these 14-year-old kids who think that they could do it, they definitely could not. You could not.
It's a good subversion of shonen anime tropes like Naruto or, Shinji is not Goku. He's not excited to fight or save the world. He's more like a normal person. I think what even helps it even more is you talked about Harry Potter, Avatar, stuff like that. In those kinds of media, everybody's saying, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. But we have these great moments here where Misato is saying, maybe he shouldn't do this. Mm-hmm. I know that his life is going to be worse if we do this. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an interesting theme this episode. Sort of dabbles. It doesn't really go deep, but it thinks, how far do you push yourself to do things you don't enjoy, you're not comfortable with, if it's sort of generally considered to be a greater good.
Yeah.
And I think it is also interesting, and again, I don't like Kensuke, but there's that moment where he's like, oh, I wish I could fight in the Eva. And it's like,
no, you don't.
Well, that's the thing. That's sort of like, oh, I wish I could be a military soldier. I wish I could do this and that. And I think that's a very childish thing that fits here, is that I think kids don't realize the actual weight of these situations.
And I like what they do with him, where he is, like, play acting like he's in the military. Mm-hmm. Like, there's that scene where he's playing, and I think they make it subtle, but they make a distinct notion of, this is a kid who doesn't fully understand what's going on in the world, and he's like, oh, fighting in battle, that's really fun. I'm gonna, pretend to do it.
You get to live with the babe, yeah, and he's like,
yeah.
It's just, it creates a good uncomfortableness, and I think we're getting a little bit more than we did last episode, but we're still pretty far away character-wise. Like I said, I think there's two good scenes with Shinji and Misato. They don't go far enough, but I like one of the choices they have where they're kind of talking slowly, and Shinji's like, you don't understand, blah, blah. And then Misato's like, no, this isn't about this, okay? Mm-hmm. And I think she's kind of like, okay, time to be sort of a parental figure, time to be a leader. I can't just sort of give in to his self-pity.
Yeah.
Which there is an aspect of that in
this. Well, and it's also, she's not perfect either.
Oh, absolutely not.
Because, in an ideal situation, and the reason it's not an ideal situation, because, in a normal show, it would be like, okay, this person feels really down in the dumps, and the leader gives him a rousing pep talk, and he feels better. But he's like, in the second scene, she says, go. If you don't want to be here, leave.
Well, she's essentially saying, too, she says, it's kind of like, I don't know what you're looking for. I don't have the answer.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to help, I need to move on.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. And that's sort of, I don't know if it's intentional, but this sort of gets echoed in the big scene later. So this is sort of like another sort of moment where I'm watching this again and go, oh, okay, here's what's going on here.
Yeah.
But it's good, it's not great. That's sort of my overall.
It was enjoyable. I liked watching it.
I think it's a little too quiet. I could have used a little music. There was that 90-second shot of Shinji and Misato looking
that
at
was
you.
a little
And you want to talk, I mean, they do these little cost-cutting things pretty frequently. Some of them are like, oh, that's a creative artistic choice. Some of them are like, we're going to get to one. Oh my god, there's this elevator scene where it's like 2 minutes or something. It's ridiculous. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, I think artistically there were some moments where having the long scene works well. Like having a 10-second or 15-second shot worked well. I think the train scene was a little overdone, and it detracts from everything else.
It's distracting. Well, it takes you out of it, because it is distracting.
Yeah.
I think one last thing I was thinking about is I just thought of, so you're talking about, Misato is not perfect, too. And again, going back to this Hedgehog's dilemma thing, I think an important part of this show is sort of seeing every character. And I will talk about this, I think, when we get to our first Ray episode. I sort of have a thing I want to talk about. But I think the idea is sort of exploring every main character, but also secondary, basically every character in the show, and how kind of everybody has their own little Hedgehog's dilemma thing going on. It's not exclusively referring to Shinji. It's sort of like a world of questionable sociopaths in some way.
Well, and that's honestly what...
Yeah.
And that's what makes something really elevated, is that you have that theme, and it runs throughout the entire series. It's not just that couple of characters that have to deal with it. It's everyone that has to deal with it. And that's what a good book or movie or show or game does, is have that continuous theme throughout everything that it does.
And this is my final thing. We kind of go rambling with this one. But I think it's a great episode. What would have done a little bit more for me is I would have liked a little bit more Rey, because she's a main character, and I'm going to keep repeating this until we get her. But I think the show should have introduced Asuka earlier as well, which you obviously don't know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
But
she's the fourth child, I'm guessing.
Well, she's the third child. So I think Shinji's the first, Rey's the second, or some such as that. But since they're the four main characters, we've really only gotten Shinji and Misato at this point, 4 episodes in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a stronger push of that, because of how important they are later, especially because countered of how much we get of these two classmate characters, that is just completely boring and uninteresting to me for the most part.
Okay. All right, well, we will let you know how we feel about the next episode. Hopefully Travis likes it a little bit better. I thought it was fine, but whatever. We'll see you then.